Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. My name is Kyle, and I promised you we had some big news today. And let me turn myself up a little bit. Promise some big news today, and I'm going to deliver. I am really excited to share this. For the last, we got Bill in the chat. What's going on, Bill? For the last 6 years, I've been working at the same place. Um, Bill actually found out recently what that job is, and I won't get into that right now. But tomorrow will be my last day. And with tomorrow being my last day, um, I'm really looking forward to um, getting into this new season. Um, whether it's traveling around the United States, so I can bring you guys content from um, different states, different stadiums, stuff like that. Um, just really diving into this head first and seeing what can we make this podcast. When you have, other obligations, and especially those other obligations pay the bills. It's hard to put the podcast first. And for the first time in my life, the podcast will be in a position now where we can put this show first and see what this thing. You know what I'm saying? So let me just go ahead and give you a cheers. Bill said, "Oh snap, that is news." It is. And man, I feel a lot of different emotions about it. I would say at first it's let's say that this is, the day that you're leaving your job, and and you get a little closer, and it's a little nerve-wracking. Get a little closer, and they just start switching faster. Exciting, nervous, exciting. So I think at this point, I'm only excited. Um, and I think we're gonna be all right. So cheers, cheers to you guys, man, for actually, having something here that we can walk into now with a smooth transition. And that's thanks to you guys for coming on weekly, engaging, interacting, liking. Um, so yeah, big changes coming. And let's talk about some. I was thinking I wanted to talk about my division predictions, but I want to wait a little bit longer to hold off on those because I would like to do that as close to the NFL season as we can. Um, I don't want to prematurely throw it out there just to have it out there when we all know that things change a lot between, right now and the last week of preseason. So a segment on, and it was a post, and it said, "What are some stats that are what are not stats? What is something that is true but doesn't seem true?" And I was going through this thread, and man, there were some amazing stats, right? I'll give you an example of a stat that is true but doesn't seem real. Tom Brady, while he played in the NFL, statistically was more likely to make a three-pointer. Okay. That one was like, damn. All right. Here's another one. Since 2015, the Denver Broncos have more Super Bowl wins than they have wins against the Chiefs, right? Um, Painfully true. It is painfully true, but I wanted to pull up some of these other ones, all right? Or as the camera. So, I had to, just ask the question and see if I could get a similar article, and I did, thanks to Reddit. And here is the first one. John Gruden is 57 and 55 with the Raiders and 57 and 55 with the Buccaneers. That is incredibly weird. It's also not that great of a record. I mean, he's just over 500. That's not the stuff that you pay $100 million for unless you're the Raiders and uh and then you just don't care, I guess. Al Davis, I don't know. Um here's some more good ones, all right? Brady was drafted by the Montreal Expos in 1995. That is crazy. Baseball. He could have went and played baseball. Do you think he would have gone to the World Series every other year? That is insane. All right, let's see a couple more here. Sam Darnold's grandfather was also an NFL player, but that's not the important part. His grandfather's name and Dick Hammer was his name. And Dick Hammer died at the age of 69. All right, we're talking Sam Darnold. I expect more out of him. Um, the Detroit Lions have one playoff win since 1957, and that one came almost 30 years ago. 1957. All right. I wasn't there in 1957, but let's put this into perspective, okay? 1957. My mother my mother was born in 1985. My dad was born in 1983. I was born in 1994. Okay, so I don't believe that my grandmother was born in 1957. And she has passed on. But just to think about it, like, there are people turning 30 next year that have grandparents that in their whole lifetime have one playoff win. I mean, you talk of people saying, "Oh, nobody's more hungry than us," like the Dolphins, right? Nobody's more hungry. Maybe the Lions. Yes, the Lions. Absolutely the Lions. Could you imagine somehow clinging on to could you imagine the poor guy, man, that's out there that has been a Detroit Lions fan since 1957 and you see like these teenage Lions fans and he's like, "You don't even know pain." I have been over 60 years. It's time for Detroit to take their place in the NFC North. It is beyond time for the Detroit Lions. Um, that goes without saying, though. Here's another fun one. 250 plus starts. Mar has 3, but Philip Rivers never had a 5 touchdown game. I find that strange. Here's a stat that I'm not reading right now that is the strangest stat I believe we will ever know in NFL history. The Chargers in 2010 had the number 1 offense in the NFL and the number 1 defense in the NFL and missed the playoffs. I really need to understand, like, how that is possible. I that is like, when they say, "No, the Chargers chargered," right? You chargered the game away, it becomes like an adjective, just like the 27-0 deficit that they gave up. They're cursed or something. I don't know. There's something going on there. That's an insane stat. He must have gotten 4 touchdown games a lot, I would imagine. Oh, it says right here, he had 9 games. That just seems really low for Rivers, but whatever. Blake Bortles even has one. Um, Russell Wilson threw 5 touchdowns in back-to-back games 3 years ago. All right, here we go. Peyton Manning's longest career rush is 1 yard longer than Trent Richardson. What? That is insane. Wow. Dan Marino played 242 career games, but only ended up with 87 career rushing yards. 242 games, 87 career rushing yards. Sure, given how Marino played, you wouldn't expect him to have a bunch of rushing yards. And of course, some of them were negative from kneel downs. Yeah, because you lose a yard or two every time you take a knee. But Peyton Manning in the pocket and probably had a similar kneel down rate and still managed 667 career rushing yards. Now back to Dan Marino, 87. That's that is very interesting because Dan Marino, you think of like a lot of people compare John Elway and Dan Marino, in that era. I would just assume that Dan Marino would be, a guy that could get out of the pocket and like I'm not he's not Lamar or Michael Vick, but just like Aaron Rodgers, it's like, oh, he can beat you with his legs. Don't get it twisted. I always kind of saw Dan Marino in that same light, but I'm wrong. Dan Marino ended up with less than 100 career rushing yards in almost 250 football games. Man, that's like not even point 0.5. That's not even like half a yard. That's not even half a yard per game. Weird. Youngins won't remember this. I won't either. I've had this story told to me, but this was can't read Roman numerals. XIX. Montana could run. Marino could not. Also weird to think the Dolphins made the Super Bowl the year before grabbing Marino in the draft on the back of a shitty quarterback and dominant defense. Then 2 years later, Marino made the Super Bowl in his sophomore year. He's basically saying that the Dolphins had a pretty good team, from the get-go. The Texans won a game 24-7 in which they had 47 yards of total offense. Wow. Oh my gosh. That might take the lead. The Texans won a game 24-7, okay? Let's just assume that's 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal, right? 3 touchdowns and a field goal. 47 yards of total offense. That is, I mean, that's got to be one of the few fewest total offensive, and of course, it would be the Texans. That must have been the worst weather of a game that anybody has ever seen. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up really quick. Texans, 47 yards total offense. Let's see what comes up here. Aaron Glenn. Cornerback Aaron Glenn did the most damage, scoring on an interception return of 50 or of 70 and 65 yards, bailing out an offense that managed just 47 yards. It set an NFL record for fewest yards by a winning team. Aaron Glenn won that game. 2 pick sixes, and both of them over 65 yards of a return. I view that guy got the game ball. One guy said, I can still remember that. Carr took more sacks than completed passes. He like 1.4 yards per carry on 26 runs. They also gave up 400 plus yards defensively, but they ran back 2 pick sixes and a fumble recovery. Look, I didn't even have to go look it up. I just had to keep reading. Then somebody commented 2 years ago, I'm going to guess Ryan Mallett. Didn't age very well. Rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. No one would be saying that today. All right. The shortest punt return for a touchdown was a 5-yard run from the landing spot of the ball to the end zone. What? A 5-yard return. That is the shortest punt return for a touchdown. So somebody's punting from their 1-yard line. I would imagine it gets blocked. No, that would be a blocked. What, did he just kick it super high? Like maybe, when you're backed up and you're punting it, you don't have a lot of room. So maybe he just had to try to get it off his foot, and but if it went up that high, I can't believe, how did it get returned? I need to see the video of that. That is insane. Here it is. Shane Gale of the Chicago Bears against the New York Giants. There you go, Bill, on a windy divisional playoff game in the 1985-86 season. It was windy as hell, and punter Sean Landetta barely connected with the ball. It grazed the side of his foot. Man. And then they got a video here uploaded, but it says, here's an awful quality video that has it. Man. Never thrown a pick six. Well, he hasn't played that much. Tom Brady has never defeated Jake Plummer. Yes. And probably the most memorable Jake Plummer-Tom Brady matchup was the 2005 AFC divisional playoff round where Denver was at home and Champ Bailey returned the interception 99 yards, but started walking at the end, got hit, fumbles the ball, and it's a safety. Or no, it's a touchback. So we get no points, but the Patriots get the ball on the 20-yard line. But I didn't know that Jake Plummer had so much success in all the Jake the Snake, man. The Jets have never beaten the Eagles in the regular season. What? I didn't realize there are still teams that have never beaten the Jets. Are 0-11 against the Eagles in the regular season. 0-11. I don't know why they say in the regular season, like the only way they could play in the playoffs is if they're in the Super Bowl. You got an NFC and an AFC team in. Do the Jets have a win over the Eagles in the Super Bowl that I don't know about? Maybe. I don't have all my Super Bowls memorized. That's weird. Wow. The Tampa Now the NFC North. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wow. Okay, so the NFC Central is now the NFC North, okay? So back when divisions were switched around, Tampa Bay was in the NFC Central, okay? And then they changed the name to the North. The Tampa Bay Bucks have won the NFC Central more recently than the Detroit Lions. That wow. That is that's so easy to roast yourself, if you're a fan of the Lions. Like that time, Tebow had a passer rating of only 100 with only 2 completions. Um, the Cowboys went to 8 Super Bowls and won 5 of them in a 25-year period. They haven't sniffed one in the past 26 years since the last one. Older than most people in the sub. Owns all the Bears passing records. Despite being an absolute Despite being an absolutely atrocious 112 to 239 and 1. That's the record overall since the team returned in 1999, talking about the Browns. An atrocious 63.5 games below 500. The Browns still have a winning record all time at 533, 509 and 14, which means the Browns were really good for a long time. And somehow they have still managed to stay above 500. But this was 2 years ago. Right now, because 2 years ago it was 533 and 509. So you're like 24 games. Have they lost 24 games in the last 2 years? Probably not, but 19, I would think. I'll just do a couple more. The Browns won a game in which Derek Anderson went 2 for 17 for 23 yards. Wow. It took Tampa 32 years for them to return a kickoff for a touchdown. Bengals ended a 5-year losing streak against divisional rival first 2020. Third string quarterback Ryan Finley led the Bengals to a 27-17 win. That was a 5-year losing streak against the Steelers. And I think the Giants have something like that going on with the Cowboys. I think it's only 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this is fun. I literally could do that all freaking day. And let's do a couple more here. The Packers swept the Lions last year, leading for 0 seconds across 2 games. Packers swept the Lions last year, leading for a total of 0 seconds across 2 games, which is just 2 game winning field goals, I guess. Did you know Jimmy Graham played basketball in college? Not shockingly, not that surprising. I mean, your tight ends, your big bodies, they're usually dual sport. Did you know in one game, Jerome Bettis, the bus, rushed 5 times for 1 yard and 3 touchdowns? Now, I heard about this stat, and I guess they must have said that they were within 1 yard, so you get, what, half a yard 5 times? That still equals more than 1 yard. I don't understand this stat. Maybe because does the NFL do half yards? Like, do they do quarter yards? Like at what point do they just curious to know? Because to rush 5 times for 1 yard, you are literally saying, like, you are 1/5 of a yard 5 times, like, I don't know. It's just weird. I s Thielen was selling dental equip before getting a tryout for the Vikings. Wow. That is, that's like the Kurt Warner bagging grocery story. Tom Brady holds the record for the second most receiving yards after the age of 40. Wow. All of Jerry Rice's records, there was a Jerry Rice record that I saw. It said, Justin Jefferson's last season, he would have to do that for the next, like, 10 years straight, and he would still be, like, a mile away from Jerry Rice. Like, I don't see it in front of me, but it was, like, one of those where you're just like, "Geez." The Jets were the first team to have a 4,000 you don't even know your own stat. The Washington football team has not taken a running back in the first round of the draft since 1967. Wow. The Jets are tied with Houston Oilers for first place finishes in the AFC. And I'll do one last one. That's a boring one. The Lions went winless twice. The Packers started their first black quarterback in 2013. Crazy to think about considering they've been around for so long. It was Wallace. He played for 7 minutes and hurt himself. Scott Tolzien came in after. And the one I will give you guys was, as a Bronco fan, Philip Lindsay was the first undrafted player to make the Pro Bowl his rookie year. And he disappeared from the league since then. But I hope you guys got a kick out of that. It was nice when we had the trivia. It's nice to do something a little more laid back. Bill said Jets never faced the Eagles in a playoff game, so I guess they've never beat them. Okay, thanks for clearing that up because, yeah, maybe it was the preseason. I don't know. They worded it weird. But all right. So, what is the NFL news roundup today? Obviously, we're not having a ton of news going on right now. Things are starting to ramp up. But one of the stories that has come out, it was State of the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, can this team provide an encore? Is this team the real deal and can they get it done? And I I know that you guys know, but I've been saying absolutely. Okay. And when I talk about Trevor Lawrence has the thing that Joe Burrow has, I just think Joe Burrow had better weapons. I mean, when you look at that really stood out to me. Um, he was the first quarterback in the last 50 years to double his passing touchdowns, double his QBR, and cut his interceptions in half. And the only other quarterback to do that from his rookie year to his second year was Drew Brees in his early year with the Chargers. So, look, I really believe, especially in this division where there is only one elite quarterback. If you want to say Trevor Lawrence is elite, I feel comfortable throwing him into that category. I don't think he is elite right now, but I think he will be elite by the end of this season. I don't think that it'll be a topic that is even argued. I also believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to win the NFL MVP. That is my prediction. Why do I think Trevor Lawrence will win the MVP? Well, when the Jaguars, because of their division, right, they are in a weak division, they are getting Calvin Ridley, they're going to be better offensively. I predict that the Jaguars are going to win the most games in the AFC. Now, when they do that, Trevor Lawrence will be the Peyton Manning to the Colts, right? That's who Trevor Lawrence is going to be. And I've always thought that comparison just made sense. Trevor Lawrence was kind of thrown into the fire his rookie year with Stinky Finger Urban Meyer. He's thrown interceptions. Peyton Manning had the most interceptions his rookie year. And then we just kind of called it a wash. And then the second year, you had two people that learned, clearly made a huge leap in their second year. And now it's like we're not even looking back anymore. By the end of this season, Trevor Lawrence will just be yet another AFC elite quarterback. And usually the NFL gives the MVP to whoever they believe has made the biggest impact on their team. And when you consider the long history of the Jacksonville Jaguars being completely irrelevant, it would only make sense that the year that the Jaguars are in the number one seed with the road to the Super Bowl coming through Jacksonville, of course, they're going to give it to the quarterback that is driving the ship. So I I am only bringing this up because they are still people out there that are not, a believer, and I understand it can be a little scary. But I think it said right here that they started. I believe they started 2-6, 2-6. All right. So, but then they went 7-2 over their final 9 regular season games. So when we're actually talking about the Jaguars last year, there is two very different teams that took the field last year. From week 0, week 1 to week 8, team, then don't trust that team. But from week 9 to the end of the season, this is a 7-2 football team, including wins, I believe, against the Cowboys and other elite teams. And it was like there was a moment where we were watching. I think it was a game where the Jaguars came back and they were down like 21 points in the third quarter. And I felt like it just clicked for Trevor Lawrence. Like he had that moment that's like Peyton Manning describes it as he got sacked, right? His moment was getting sacked. It's like your, aha moment, your coming to God moment. Like he said, he got up and he said, I can play this game at a high level. That's when he knew it, right? Like, okay, I got sacked, I got hit, but he completed a pass. So it wasn't sacked. He got knocked down, I guess, put it through a tight window, made a really difficult completion. And for Peyton Manning, obviously he's the only one that would know this, but he probably thought to himself, that was not hard for me to do. And that's what a really difficult pass looks like. I can put two and two together and I can tell that I'm going to be really good at this for a long time. Trevor Lawrence had that moment last year. And if they were going 7-2 for the final 9 games, what would they have done if they started with that 7-2 from week 1, right? Let's push them to week 10 and they're 7-2. I think that's what's going to happen this year. They're probably going to lose week 2 against the Chiefs. We're going to be at that game and we're going to be cheering our asses off for Jacksonville to win because F the Chiefs, right? But that is going to be a really early sign of what kind of year they're going to have. And it doesn't have about 4 tough games on their schedule. I know it's the NFL, every game is a hard game, but they only have 4 games where it's like they're probably going to lose, right? So if they can at least, right? If I'm watching the Chiefs and the Jaguars, it's got to be a game, right? I got to be like, okay, we're going into the fourth quarter. It's a 3-point game. Jacksonville's got the ball. We should be counting timeouts, playing field position. Like, we need that game to be a ball game. If the Chiefs go out there and just smack the Jaguars around, everybody is going to be like, the Jacks, they're pretenders, right? And we know, right? The NFL by week 3, by week 4, it's contender or pretender, right? They just start throwing that out for everybody who's having success. The Giants, the Jets. Um, well, one of the ways that you can really know what you are is when you play a game, a measuring stick game against the Chiefs. And I predict that Jacksonville is going to be very eager to play their best football game against the Chiefs because they know that if they had played their best football game in the what was that, the divisional round, right? They left points off the board. They fumbled on the goal line. They dropped wide open walk-in touchdown passes. Like they still had a shot at the end of that game to win. And they just didn't have a good game. So I can speak from experience when you don't have your best game and you lose and that team wins the Super Bowl, in a weird way, it's such a confidence booster. It was like in 2012 when Joe Flacco threw the Hail Mary to Jacoby Jones. It was Peyton Manning's first year, and it wasn't going very well. We started 2-5, but then we never lost again. When it clicked, it clicked. Joe Flacco somehow throws this bomb right into the mile high sky, sends the game into overtime, and the Ravens win, right? And it was like, wow, like I felt sick. And the Ravens won the Super Bowl that year, which was like, dude, if you get this confidence, like if we could have just handled our business, we would have been the Super Bowl champion. That is the game that Jacksonville experienced last year in their own way. Fast forward to 2013, the very first week of the season, guess what the NFL did? We're going to have the kickoff of the new season, the Ravens at Denver. Rematch. Peyton Manning throws 7 touchdown passes. They break almost every offensive record in the book, and Denver goes to the Super Bowl. It might not be on week 1, it's week 2, but that's the type of performance I'm expecting out of Jacksonville. So that is my Jacksonville rant. Bill said, I remember when we were a 7-2 team last year, then we fell off a cliff. Dude, it happens. It happens. I remember when Josh McDaniels was our head coach and we were 6-0. And it was like, wow, how are we 6-0? Because there was a lot of like fluke wins happening that year. And then we finished 8-8. And that's the worst. You just get like a little taste of success and then you get crapped on. But yeah, my projection is Trevor Lawrence is going to be the 2023 MVP, whether he makes it to the Super Bowl or not, because the award will be determined before the AFC Championship game, or no, it's the week. I think they determine it the week between the Super Bowl, the media week. That's when they do the awards. So they probably determine it during the AFC Championship game. And who's it going to be, man? The Bengals, I think, are going to be a lot better. I think here's my sneaky prediction. The Chiefs aren't going to be there this year. And I understand, like, you can't just say that because you're a Broncos fan. I'm not. I'm really not. The Chiefs, I don't believe they got better like the way the Bengals did or like the way the Jaguars are going to. It is okay. It doesn't mean Mahomes is not the next Tom Brady. It just means that how long did it take for Tom Brady to get kicked out at the divisional round, right? Mahomes has this incredible stat where he's been in the AFC Championship game at home, I believe, since 2018. There is going to come a year where that's not the case. It'll happen, once. Like And I'm just saying, I think that that's this year. And I don't think it's because of Mahomes or his greatness. I think it's because the AFC is overloaded right now. And basic statistics tells you that whatever, whatever conference is overloaded, good teams have a better shot of missing the biggest games, right? Because there's only 2 tickets, and there's a lot of teams that are going to be battling. But specifically, I'm looking at the Jaguars, the Bengals, the Chiefs. Who knows what's going to happen with the Ravens, right? Um, what are the Chargers? We know they have a top 5 quarterback. At least that's what people keep saying. Well, then they should be there, right? We've already filled almost every playoff spot. We haven't even, gone through some of the other divisions. The Steelers, I saw someone predicting the Steelers to make it to the AFC Championship game, and Kenny Pickett's going to have this huge year. Maybe. I think Mike Tomlin's the best coach in the NFL. Let's put it this way. Mike Tomlin, when he lost Ben Roethlisberger, was he ever really that great? I mean, yeah, he was good when he was really young. But then we went on a stretch of a long time where it was like, when's the last time you remember Big Ben, like, coming back and taking the lead, having that like moment, like that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning feeling? Like, it was a long time. But somehow Mike Tomlin always had his team with a winning record in playoff, contention. And now they switch in the middle of the season to a rookie, and it just happens to kind of work out where the Steelers are playing for the playoffs, at the end of the year. And then you look at Bill Belichick, like he can't figure out what to do with Mac Jones, doesn't have an offensive coordinator. You got a defensive coach, but Mike Tomlin's always been about that defense. Like, there were rules changed in the NFL because of the Portis Jr. Troy Polamalu. I mean, the Steelers defense was no joke. So Mike Tomlin to me is he's so well rounded, and at some point I'm just not going to rule out Mike Tomlin. Right? I'm not going to be surprised if the Steelers make a jump. I don't expect them to, but that division is going to be a B, right? The Browns, like if Deshaun Watson gets back, even remotely back to his original form, he's a top 10 quarterback. Okay, so Deshaun Watson, and then the Bengals, and then the Steelers. It's and the Ravens. Like, that division is going to be really fun to watch. And I'm going to be honest, like, I'm going to go with the Bengals because Joe Burrow is that man. But outside of that, I feel like it's a toss up. Whatever I decide I'm going to put down for my prediction is a guess. It is. I'm guessing completely. I do feel good about the Bengals thing, but outside of that, and when I say that, though, that means that all of those teams are capable of making it to the playoffs. So, there's just not enough people. There's just not enough spots. And I feel like the AFC right now is at kind of a tipping point where, one conference is so packed. And that's why the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl, it just makes sense, right? Because the NFC is not like the NFC is. Who's your second hardest team in the NFC? Well, you got the 49ers, and then who? The Cowboys? Like, Cowboys, come on. The Cowboys are going to screw it up when it matters the most, and we know that. So, obviously the Giants, you can't sleep on the Giants, and neither is Darius Slayton. And this is what Darius Slayton said today about him seeing himself as a possible wide receiver number 1 in a crowded receiving core. He said, "I believe in my ability. The prevailing notion surrounding the New York Giants is that Big Blue lacks a true number 1 receiver. Your DeAndre Hopkins, your whatever, right? Well, Wideout Darius Slayton, who re signed with the club this offseason, rejects that notion, believing he can be that receiver. And this is what he said. This is what he told Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. I wouldn't say it bothers me because everybody doesn't know what I know. When asked about his lack of respect around the NFL, everybody is not in the Giants building. And at the end of the day, you can only judge based on what you see from afar. It's pretty wise words from Darius Slay. Slayton led the Giants in receiving 3 of the past 4 seasons, but has yet to breach the 800-yard mark. Man, and that is kind of one of the reasons I was a little skeptical about Daniel Jones was that he's led the receiving group 3 of the last 4 seasons, and he hasn't even gotten to the 800-yard mark. Big Blue hasn't had a 1,000-yard campaign from a receiver since Odell Beckham in 2018. And folks, that's 5 years ago now. That is crazy. 5 years without a 1,000-yard campaign from a receiver. You see this guy go for 1,010 yards or see a guy go for 100 yards every week, and you go, he's really good, Slayton said. Some of these guys play with nobody. I play with Saquon Barkley. Where do you think the ball is going first? Not me. We had Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and now Darren Waller. I didn't play with a bunch of bums. That's a little annoying because at the end of the day, it's not like I've ever been the only person or one person to get the ball. Whereas somebody else is, so he's saying like, we have so much talent here that it's impossible for me to get the same amount of looks as like, um, but you know why that's kind of BS is because the guys he's talking about, like Darren Waller, um, Hollins, Devontae Adams, they were all in the Raiders, right? And everybody knew that Devontae Adams was the true number one receiver because he was different, right? So there is some truth to like, yeah, we spread the ball around a lot, but I guarantee you, if you were to put Devontae Adams on the Giants team right now, there would be no question about who the number one receiver is. So is the ball being spread around because you're not a number one receiver? Or are you not a number one receiver because the ball is being spread around? It's a little bit of the chicken and the egg going on right here. And, to be fair, like there's a quarterback developing in the middle of all of this. So we're going to have to wait and see this year. Obviously, they drafted Jalen Hyatt. They have Jamison Crowder, Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Wandale Robinson, Slayton, Shepard. There's a lot of depth right now at the position, but I know how it feels to have a lot of wide receiver threes. This kind of feels like how Green Bay was kind of doing it last year, where it's just like you have a lot of names, and this is kind of how I'm feeling about the Ravens. Like I'm holding off, like seen Odell play in a while. Um, is Nelson Aguilar really that good? Like, you just throw out a bunch of names that have had some success in the NFL and you group them all together. But sometimes you just need that one guy that's just different, man. Like it doesn't matter if we double him. It doesn't matter what we do. The defenses literally are staying up at night trying to figure out what they can do to slow down your Devontae Adams. That's opportunities and things like that. And, you know, we'll see what happens this year. There's going to be a lot of pressure, I believe, on Daniel Jones to go out there and at the very minimum have one receiver with 1,000 yards because that means he was airing it out. So um, that is the episode for Dohu. I didn't see this chat here because I was on the other page. KC in the chat said, "Hey Kyle, I remember the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl last year at least." Yeah, no, that's good for the Chiefs. Bill said, "Hey KC, you don't win them all for sure." Yep, very true. Steve said, "Hey everyone, is there any chip and dip left?" Yeah, I'm doing I'm doing a 2-day fast right now, and I told myself before I came on that I wasn't going to let it affect me and my energy. And all I can say is I'm so mad at you for that comment. Um, and then Bill said Love Slay took a pay cut to stay on the team. Plus, with Saquon on the team, who's going to get the ball more? Yeah, you read that part. Never mind. Um, whoa, I just had a green screen. And then Casey just saying hi. Glad to have everybody back. You can tell we're getting closer to the NFL season. And since you guys missed the beginning announcement, tomorrow will be my last day as in my career. I'm leaving my line of work, and that is going to be amazing for this show, for the podcast. We're going to be traveling around to different states, different stadiums, and it's just been awesome having this podcast to kind of transition through. And now we can put all of our attention on it and see how big we can make this thing. But if you guys are just watching this out there for the first time and you want to track this journey, not just going to all these different games, but driving to the games, is going to be a lot of content going on because we're about to go on the adventure of a lifetime, state to state to state to state, at this game, at that game, at this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you can follow all of it on Twitter at FTBLONLYPODCAST. And my partner Rick at and now Rick ANDNOWRICK. And sharing this and even just commenting on it when it's uploaded is really helpful for the algorithm. Still trying to figure out how to master that thing, and I can't figure it out. And then Steve said, I hear you. Sometimes you just need that one person to cradle your sack and look you in the eye and say, are you ready? Yes, that is so true. Everybody just needs that one person to cradle your sack and let you know that it's about to go down. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Since you guys weren't in the last one, I'll tell you we are going to be in Denver for week 1. Raiders at Broncos. We're going to go to Sean Payton's first game. We're going to be interviewing the fans outside of that, getting the Mile High Magic feeling the temperature with Sean Payton. Then week 2, we're in Jacksonville for Chiefs at Jaguars. And then week 3, we go down south to Miami for Broncos at Dolphins. Then week 4, Thursday Night Football, we jump up to Green Bay for Detroit at Packers. And then we take the 45-minute drive down to Chicago for Sunday, week 4, Broncos at Bears. Okay. And then week 5 is going to be Broncos Jets. And then we're going to be going to Arrowhead for Broncos Chiefs. And I don't want to give the rest away, but that is going to be how we start the show. Going to all these stadiums, like I've never been to these stadiums. These are going to be totally new adventures. And I'm really excited to share it all with you guys at the same time, bringing you guys footage from in those atmospheres, like being in the stadium, going live in the stadium, so it's going to be a great time and I'm excited for it. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys on Monday, officially out of my last job. It will be official. I will be a free man to do whatever I please, and I will make sure to dedicate it to this podcast. So thank you guys for coming in and checking it out, and I will see you guys in a couple days. Go Broncos. See ya.